Hey, what's up? This is Fantasy Fling with the FS Army, and this is your Week 14 Millie Maker review. Week in review, we're going to look at the Millie Maker, what won it, top 10 lineups, see what was in contention to win it, a little bit of MMU strategy of top DFS players, and then, of course, finish it up with a cash lineup review. So let's first start with what won the Millie Maker this past week. Pretty interesting. Feel like we were on a lot of the plays, at the FS Army, but it ended up being just a crazy week as far as, a lot of the good chalk, what looked like good chalk was not really good chalk. It actually ended up failing. And what we see, obviously, is here Josh Allen to Dalton Kincaid. It's interesting. We kind of nailed the tight end matchup, the Josh Allen matchup. Whenever Josh Allen is pushed, and specifically when he's at home, that's when you're going to get the best version of Josh Allen. Um, you know, even though it was a really good matchup for James Cook, it was kind of just one of those things. Potential direct leverage off of James Cook chalk was that, either Josh Allen or James Cook were probably going to have a big game. Unlikely that both of them are going to have a big game. Josh Allen was the one with that great matchup. He did a lot. I think he had like 75 rushing yards and a touchdown on the ground. And then obviously he brought Kincaid with him, but really it was a tight end smash for the Bills with both Kincaid and Knox getting touchdowns, scoring a lot of points. The Bengals remain terrible against tight ends. That is something to keep in mind the rest of the way. But this was a Josh Allen to Kincaid stack, no bring back. Probably could have had a T. Higgins bring back, but no bring back here. And then, the lineup gets crazy. So there was a lot of correlation here, what I loved in this lineup. So we had Allen plus Kincaid, and then we had Michael Wilson plus Puka. So a little ping pong stack here. And really, this stack was what did it. 78 points, almost 79 points between these two. And then we had an interesting Tony Pollard plus Tennessee D with Harold Fannin on the other side. So, oftentimes it's like don't play any players against your defense. I think in this situation though, with them being so cheap and a lot of these players being cheap, it matters less. And that's one thing I typically like to take away. I know, a lot of people, they like to play with hard rules, but just something that I've seen from reviewing winning lineups over the years, that the less the salary of the players involved, the less the rules matter for stuff like that. So, if you got, $8,700 Puka Nacua, you probably don't want the Cardinals D, because if Puka's smashing at 8,700, he's going for over 30, right? So there's a lot of touchdowns that are being scored. So that negatively correlates, I think, with the defense more at his salary versus, Harold Fannin versus Tennessee D here. 37, that's 28 points. He's 3,700. He hit, 7x the salary. But the game, what this environment is saying here, we have Tennessee running back, Tony Pollard, and then you have Tennessee defense. Those two correlate, but you're also, in this scenario, I think you were playing Tennessee because Shador's a young quarterback. He could throw interceptions. He has. In fact, he threw one in this game. And also he gets quite a few sacks. So at the $2,900 salary, I think it definitely made sense for this construction anyway. Now, when we look at this lineup, it wasn't incredibly contrarian, 115% still contrarian, but you'll notice 8 chalk in a couple spots. Jacobs, Puka, and Michael Wilson for sure being mega chalk, but yet, really Allen, 14%. These were some of the higher owned guys at their position, but Tony Pollard, less than 0.5%, 0.3%. We have DK Metcalf at 4%, Kincaid 7%, and Harold Fannin at 5%, and then Tennessee D under 10%. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 spots under 10%. And that is certainly, a lesson. You can eat a lot of chalk and still find ways to get different with the lineup. So that's first. Let's look at the top 5 here. So second place, Shador. And yeah, Shador was so close to being in the nuts himself. In fact, salary wise, Shador definitely outperformed Josh Allen. They were within a fraction of a point of one another. Josh Allen, 7,500, Shador, 4,400, right? So value wise, it was much better, but it wasn't really the slate where like it worked out to have those pay ups, right? Because I suppose there could have been a JSN in here with Shador. Puka, Wilson, JSN. You probably could have fit JSN in there if you paid down more deep. Or actually, there. God, I'm blind. There's JSN. So that's why I think it made sense more in this lineup. He's a point behind. Well, actually, he was pretty far off of first place. We're talking a 12-point difference. But really, what it was, he paid up for JSN and Puka Nacua, but you didn't get the score from JSN at 9K. Puka vastly outperformed him at 300 less and 10 more points there. So there just wasn't really another player that would have paid off the salary. So value-wise, it made sense, but lineup construction-wise, just didn't get there because a lot of the high-priced guys failed, or if they failed, they provided, a great floor, but you didn't see a ceiling from them. So this lineup had Harvey, and even then, Harvey, 22 points at 5,700. There's no flames for Harvey there. Jacobs, it's interesting. Jacobs made it in both of the top lineups, and that just kind of goes to show how bad it was at running back. And come to think of it, I think if Achane was smashing in the first half. Like he had 75 yards and a touchdown like at the beginning of the second quarter. If he does not get hurt, we're probably seeing some Shador lineups with, Fannin and Puka and Achane get to the top of the leaderboards, maybe even win the Millie. But Jacobs 17 points, not enough. And then this one had Colson Loveland. Colson Loveland, 4x the salary at 3,200. And then Washington D, not quite enough there. It was a good day for JJ McCarthy. And see, this lineup had the T. Higgins play, so the Burrow, and I liked playing this way, and I actually had some underdog drafts where I had like a Burrow stack with a James Cook bring back, and it sucked because James Cook, he had his opportunities, he had 2 fumbles. Yeah, like those are big swings. It's not even just a -4 points, so that would have put him at 16, but like 2 potential touchdowns. Like we're talking about James Cook having over 25 points versus, James Cook ending with 12 points. But that is the reason why it's positive expected value when a player gets to a certain amount of ownership, more times than not, to try to leverage the field and fade that player. And more so, like you kind of got to choose who you want to play, because playing a 47% owned James Cook in one lineup and a Michael Wilson in the other lineup, or in that same lineup, like 2 players, you're eating so much chalk that it kind of just makes more sense to decide to fade one of those. Now I know I say that, and then this guy won 50K, but I think over the course of many slates, you're going to be more profitable more times than not if you take your stands on like, yes, I'm playing James Cook and I'm fading Michael Wilson, or vice versa. It's very rare that 2 players, this type of ownership, are both going to provide tournament winning value. All right, let's see what 4th place did. Then we'll look at 5th place and do a little MME strategy. So Fourth place, Shador plus Judkins plus Harold Fannin, and I'm cool with it. Judkins was one of the fails of the slate. The running backs were so terrible on this slate. Like, that is what really crushed me. Brees Hall, Achane gets hurt. He should have had, 30 points for sure, 30 plus points. Judkins, not enough. 9 points here. Just terrible. Even Josh Jacobs, 17 points. Like, it was bad across the board. Liked Harvey. Harvey did enough at 5,700, and that's why we're seeing him in a lot of these top lineups here. He certainly did enough at 5,700. And then JSN, he certainly could have been in the winning lineup if you had the right combination. 28 points. We do see it. It's enough. It wasn't enough with this combination, but it certainly can be enough. I mean, we saw Josh Jacobs with 17 points at 6,800. So, but yeah, the running backs, it was just such. So when the top two scoring running backs are a combined less than 1% owned, Tony Pollard and Blake Corum, like, that's crazy. RJ Harvey was the third highest scoring running back with 22 points. So just a mess. Jalen Wright with 19 points because HN ended up with 17 points. Like, he would have went for probably 40 points. And I'm just still tilting over that a little bit. Jonathan Taylor, we knew he was going to have a bad day. James Cook, Henry. Yes, a lot of these guys were in a much better spot than they ended up being. Anyways, let's go on to the fifth place lineup. Joe Burrow plus T. Higgins. No bringbacks in this one. This one had the pay down running backs, which you could see how this lineup got here in some respects, because let's go cheap at running back, and because running back was such a failure, that positioned this lineup with the JSN, the T. Higgins, the Michael Wilson, the three combined scores plus Harold Fannin. Like, these combined scores really carried the lineup. And, oh, by the way, also hit on Blake Corum. This is one of those lineups where this is just what you'll see in the Millie Makers sometimes, where it's just lucky. Like, you played Aaron Jones, Devin Neal, and Blake Corum. Those are low probability plays in conjunction with one another, like very low probability. And you had a positive ROI of almost 20K. So good on you. And that's why we love DFS, because in any given slate, someone could have all these like low probability plays stacked together. Aaron Jones, who's coming off a shoulder injury, Devin Neal, the backup, Blake Corum. Well, Devin Neal's getting the start, but Blake Corum was definitely the backup to Kyron. And you pair them together, and yet you win 20K. So good on you. So one guy I wanted to take a look at, because he's won it before, Hishbu. Doing these for a few years with DFS Army now. Hishbu has won the Millie Maker before, and he regularly places high in it. So I saw he placed 18th in this. So I want to take a look at his exposure. So he had his top lineup: Shador to Judy to Fannin. No bringbacks. Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua. Secondary stack with Michael Wilson on the other side. RJ Harvey one off. Jamar Chase one off. And Jamar Chase, what a disappointment that was. Like, you would think if the Bills and Bengals go for over 70 points, 75 points almost, you would think that Jamar Chase would have a good score. Not quite. But, I mean, hey, top 20, good on Hishbu. Let's look at his exposures. And then it looks like, from what I remember, just looking a little earlier, there wasn't a lot of like hard stands at quarterback. Let's start with quarterback and see if we can figure all this out here. Josh Allen, 9%. Yeah, Shador 2. So top lineup Shador. it's don't judge a book by its cover. Oftentimes that doesn't really mean, he's going to have a ton of exposure to that guy. 2%, very flat. Like no one super high here. So just very flat exposures at quarterback. Now, at wide receiver, 12, positive leverage of 12, almost 12% on Puka. Chase over the field, way over the field on Michael Wilson. So that was clearly positive leverage that helped propel Hishbu's lineups, with having that much Wilson who scored 40 points. That's how you get one lineup near the top, right? And then so went heavy on those guys, pretty flat everywhere else. A little bit positive leverage on JSN. A little under on Luther Burden. He was one of the plays of the slate, one of the value plays of the slate. Avoiding some of these landmines, like, having a ton of Adonai Mitchell. And just flat. Now, Kyle Pitts, double the field on Kyle Pitts, more than double the field on Kyle Pitts. A good amount of Fannin. So, those were two plays that certainly helped a lot. Let's see what Kyle Pitts. I'm pretty sure Kyle Pitts had a good day. I want to see exactly what he finished with. He had 15 points. It's good enough for your fantasy league. Not going to win you a tournament. But yeah, had Fannin crushed it, obviously, 28 points. And, he was triple the field on Fannin. And Kyle Pitts did enough at 4,200, like 15 points. That's certainly not bad. Didn't fade. Kincaid. No, like half of the field on McBride. Nothing high there. And then running back Genty. I didn't understand the Genty's chalk. That was an easy fade for me. Just didn't make sense, not against Denver's defense. That's just one of those things where projections, like optimizers, are going to shove a player in, and you just got to know a little bit of ball. Not saying that Hishbu doesn't, but you just got to be like, those are like strategic fades that you need to have. A little under on James Cook. That definitely helped. But yeah, Kenneth Walker was another one of those guys. Like he didn't do anything. And he hasn't done anything. And so tilting because, did he even play? Jesus, 3 points. They've had a good team all year and he hasn't smashed. So yeah, all these running backs failed. Genty, James Cook, Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall. What helped him was being under on Achane. And it sucks because, it sucks for me. It sucks for everyone else. Like, Achane would have smashed, but it worked out for him in this spot. Josh Jacobs, did enough with 17 points. And then you have flat quarterback exposures. A lot of Washington D. That certainly hurt. I understood the play price-wise, and a lot of Tennessee D. So that was okay. Faded Cleveland D. So yeah, I think the big takeaway here is, a few spots where he went in really was just a little under on Achane. But other than that, none of these plays were great at running back. There were no sharp plays that really propelled him. If you look at this, because, basically even with the field on RJ Harvey, it was just didn't have crazy exposure to these guys. So being under on James Cook helped and under on Achane helped. And then, over the field on these guys were not crazy under with high exposure. A good amount of Kyle Pitts. So had the tight ends pretty correct. And then, had enough exposure on Puka. And then that 60% Michael Wilson really helped. But that will wrap it up for the Millie Maker Review MME portion of the show this week. Going to go right into my cash lineup. And I hate these weeks. I took a beating in cash this week. This is one of the worst weeks I've ever had in cash. And I think a couple things stand out. Number one, we ran bad for sure. I trusted the prop projections on Jaden Daniels. I just felt like he was underpriced at 6K, and he was propping really good, and he was getting ownership. So it felt like that was going to be a good play, but he wasn't playing well, and then he got hurt. So would he have, had he not got hurt, would he have been able to salvage a day with 15 points? Maybe, but overall, I think Josh Allen in that situation was the better play. And I was concerned about playing Josh Allen and James Cook in the same lineup, and just being able to get to James Cook, being able to get Jacobs, Chase, and another 6K back in. I felt like it just was easier to do with Jaden Daniels. And also, I was kind of like either one of Josh Allen or James Cook is probably going to go off. And it's, slim chance that it won't be both of them, or that it would be both of them. So I think in that context, like that was the right move. But Josh Allen did do enough to kind of carry James Cook enough to between the two. It would have been a good score. I don't know that I would, in this situation again, I probably would play Josh Allen just based on the way Daniels has played this year, and then coming off the injury. I think Josh Allen was certainly the better play overall there, and should have just ran him with James Cook. Or I was originally going to play Josh Allen with Achane, but the matchup was just too good for James Cook. So that's why I couldn't come off of James Cook. Obviously, just talked about it earlier, the run out. We're talking about, what should have been a 25-point game for James Cook, and he gets half that. He gets 12 points. Good matchup for Hall, just miserable offense, and that's the risk you have with the Jets. Jamar Chase, same thing. Like Higgins got all the tutties. I love the game environment, even though the Bills aren't like the easiest matchup. They don't have like a Patrick Surtain, and with the game environment, just thought that we'd probably get like 20 from Jamar Chase. Certainly didn't get there. Had Michael Wilson as a core. Luther Burden had a strong confidence on him as well with the Dunze out. So these plays, I think all these like plays here, Wilson, Burden, Barner, Jacobs, I was all confident with these plays. And I was confident with James Cook as well. But I think maybe coming off a Chase, getting Josh Allen in there, I could have got Josh Allen, Cook, and Achane and just not play Chase. And I think the lineup would have been a lot better. And I would hit the cash line for sure with Olave. So, yeah, some lessons to be learned. There's always lessons to be learned. I think just having a better feel for the slate, would have got us to the right spot. Made some bad decisions. I know we had some people in DFS Army's Discord who cashed. So, Allen was the highest rated guy on my sheet. Should have just followed the sheet. And the same with Achane, had him really highly rated. So I think with those two in there, coming off a Chase certainly would have been the way to go this week and would hit the cash line. But we're on to Cincinnati, is Belichick once said. We're on to Cincinnati. We're on to week 15. We will see you all next week for another week in review. Thanks for joining me for this one. Let me know how this week went for you. Hit that like button, subscribe, notification bell, all the YouTube things. We'll see you next time.